Indie Pod Podcast. I'm your host, Super Joe Pardo, and this week I have a great topic for you podcasters out there, all about smart speakers and you. Well, you being specifically your podcast. So we have a couple of questions here that I'm going to run through, and I have a big announcement to make that I talked about in the Indie Pod podcast group. And I'll get to all that before I introduce my guest to my left. If you aren't in the group, join us at indiepodcon.com/group. We're almost at 700 members. We 2 months ago, we were at 420 for the longest time. And just 2 months later, a little over two months later, we are sitting at just shy of 700 members. It is incredible. Every single day, there's more and more interaction growing. There's more and more connection and bonding going. Questions being asked. The hive, if you will, the mind hive that's going on here in the group is going very strong. And I am so excited to have so many great people coming in, asking questions, and helping each other out. If you are listening live, pop in the chat where you're listening from. Would love to give some shout outs here while we do this live. If you aren't listening live, well then good, you found the Indie Pod podcast on either YouTube or on or maybe on Facebook, but also on our in the Apple Store, wherever you go and get your podcast from, Spotify or your ALEAXAs or your Hey Googles or all those things. If you're listening on podcast form. Anyway, I have a big announcement tonight that I'm going to get to after I get to introduce my guest. Everybody, give it up for Chip Edwards. Woo!
All right. Glad to be here.
Happy to have you.
All right.
Tell the people why or what you do and why you're here, Chip.
So I'm here because smart speakers and voice technology is kind of taken off. And so what I do is I help people that have content get their content out on smart speakers. And so I've been going around and talking about it. And there's a couple of things that kind of happen magically. So I'd like to explain some of the magic behind that. And then there's pieces that you want to do to be able to make sure your content is available to the hundreds of millions of people that have voice technology devices that they're using.
Literally hundreds of millions. I have one right next to me, and it's not even, it's a tablet. It's a Fire HD tablet that literally is on my desk to run my cameras and turn my lights and speakers on and off in the room.
Yes, it's not just smart speakers. I mean, there's hundreds of millions of smart speakers. I think the last number I saw was 74 million people in the United States have smart speakers. But smart speakers is much bigger than that. But I think what you were mentioning is true. The average is 2.3 smart speakers per person. It's kind of like kids, I guess, 2.3 kids, but it's smart speakers, 2.3 smart speakers per person.
Well, let's see. So in my house, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 if you include the tablet that's sitting on my desk that I basically run as an Alexa show.
Yes, and that so you're dragging the average up, and that's I think I probably have about 8 in my house too. As far I got one in the barn even. I mean, we've got them all over the place. So people start using them. I think that what was it? The news that just came out from the BBC. I think the tagline they put out there was ubiquitous ambient computing is what Amazon is moving for. They want voice technology everywhere you are, and so that's where. So you with 8 in your house, that's not bad. And then if you count cell phones, and on top of that, you probably even have more devices that
I have two just sitting in front of me.
Right.
I have my iPad in my bag in one of the bags sitting behind me, up on the wall there. So yeah, there is and we have a bunch of other Fire tablets too in the house. So yeah, I didn't even count all those because. So there is a huge push, and I think it's it's great that there's somebody that's able to help navigate getting your podcast onto those smart speakers, because it's not as simple as it probably should be or could be, but it just is the way it is.
Yes, there's a couple for podcasts. Fortunately for podcasts, you've got it easier than most companies or people that have content, because Amazon and Google both have a default process that they that if they can find your podcast either on TuneIn or in Google Podcast, they'll play it for people. So that makes it easier to get your content out on smart speakers. But the big thing with that is if you use the default mechanisms, TuneIn or Google Podcast, you don't get any of the stats as far as who's listening to your podcast through smart speakers. So that's one of the downfalls of it, but at least people can find it. I think the statistics, though, were of the people that have smart speakers, like 46% of them have tried to listen to podcasts, and but only like 26% have been successful at it, which means that there's a lot of podcasts that people want to listen to that they haven't been able to find. And so getting your podcast out on TuneIn or Google Podcasts is like a bare minimum. You've got to do that to be able to make sure your content is available, or at least the latest episode of your content is available.
Yeah. So I mean, we can definitely talk, because I want to talk more about TuneIn and like all that, how that aggregates and all that. But right now, I have a big announcement to make. To drop on everybody. I've been kind of hard at work the last week or so. A lot of people, Chip, and I imagine yourself included, because I think you've complimented as well. Have complimented the swag that we put together each year for what was MapCon, now ICON, the Independent Podcast Conference. And I have resisted, for whatever reason, to make podcasting apparel and swag available to the masses. So what I have done the last couple of weeks is I put together a store for Indie PodCon. So you can go to indiepodcon.com/shop and you can check out some of the designs. Now, some of the designs have existed, like the mic dropper shirts, now we have a mic dropper hat and beanie. We have a ladies short sleeve t-shirt for mic dropper, which had not been available prior. We have some podcaster shirts, like this limited edition. Like these will never be made again. So these are what it is. It is what it is from MapCon 5. We have a handful of them available. Only certain sizes, and when they're gone. I'm personally shipping them out. We have a mic dropper sticker that you can get in 3 different sizes. There's a Podfessional beanie and the original MapCon 4 Podfessional shirts, which Chip, you have one of those, I believe, right?
Oh yeah, I got mine.
We have Indie PodCon stickers available in 3 sizes, and this design is the 8-bit podcaster t-shirt that comes in a lot of different sizes. I wanted to put something together because we are digital, we're digital creatures, podcasters. So I wanted to put together a design that kind of spoke to that and give it make it available in a bunch of different sizes and colors, and allows you to find the thing that matches what your style. Let me go back here, and that logo, the podcaster logo, is also available in 3 different sticker sizes as well. So yeah, so it's available, and not only is it available, but the other part of this big announcement is that there's a Black Friday sale, right? So because of course there is 25% off your Icon ticket is available. So normally we offer 10%. Like here's the 10% banner with code IPP. But if you use code Black Friday, one word, and go to indiepodcon.com/register, you can save 25% off of your ticket. Right now, tickets are at $199. And that will be available until I think it's midnight December 1st. So or I guess November 30th at midnight. I don't know. Yeah, when November ends, that's when it ends. So you have until the end of November to take advantage of that. Just like if you go to indiepodcon.com/shop, which is what's all over here to my left, you can save 25% off the store, any of these designs. These shirts are limited edition. This shirt will never be available again. The Podfessional shirt will be available again, but without the MapCon branding on the shoulder after the fact. So once those are gone, they're gone. I really like the way the Podfessional beanie came out, though. I decided to do like a white on white because some people might, be down for that. But you can also get it in darker colors, red, and all that. So I really wanted to put together a nice baseline of products for people to check out and to add to their collection, and aren't necessarily too Indie PodCon branded, but I'm working on some more designs and I'm looking forward to getting them out. So yeah, so indiepodcon.com/shop. Use Black Friday as a promo code to save 25%. It's like basically like getting free shipping. I think it's like, but it's off your whole order. So depending on what you order, you're getting 25% off the whole thing. I think the shipping is $4.99 flat rate no matter what you buy. So if you buy 2 items, you're over the free shipping threshold. Speaking of all that, with the Black Friday sale, if you haven't heard, Icon 6 is coming. IndiePodCon 6 is coming back to Swedesboro. If you haven't heard that yet, I don't know why you wouldn't have heard it yet, but some people might not have heard it yet. We had a meetup. So here's the other thing. So we had a meetup on Sunday. We had it in Center City, Philadelphia, and we had like a little over 10 people show up. Shout out to all the people that came. I'm not going to name names because I'm going to end up forgetting somebody, but thank you for all the people that showed up. Thank you to Matthew Passy for speaking. If you didn't hear his talk from MapCon 5, What's Hurting Your Podcast, you can actually go and listen to it on the IndiePod podcast. It was the last episode on this show. If you go to indiepodcon.com/listen, or if you go to our brand new ultimate guide, How to Start a Podcast, ultimate guide, and I don't know where it is. I think it's pretty far down though. Yeah, it's pretty far. It's like 3/4 of the way down. You can actually watch his talk from there. So like there's me, and then bam, there's Matthew Passy. This place is really cool, Chip. Like it was at the Jewish Art Center in like just outside of Center City. And there was some really cool artwork there. So it was pretty neat venue, as you can see from the video on my screen. There's a lot of cool artwork there. Yeah.
That's a nice place. Yeah,
it was really nice. I was really stoked about having our event there, and shout out to them for hosting us. So that, I think that covers all the things I have to announce at the moment. Yeah, if you want to get to the How to Start a Podcast Ultimate Guide, go to indiepodcon.com/SAP, and you can get yourself like 7,600 plus words of podcasting goodness and how to get it started. And if you have a friend or somebody who's looking to start a podcast, like send them there. There's a ton of videos, including MapCon videos and things of that nature. And I'm going to be expanding into more guides where, Chip, one of your talks will definitely be making into that guide, because it will be like next level stuff. Like, what should you be looking for? Like, once you get yourself. I was just checking to make sure you weren't in the in the how to start a podcast guide. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like once you take one, what's the next step, right? How do I get myself in front of even more ears to take that next step? So that's a mouthful. So Chip,
yes,
let's talk about how to so TuneIn is the de facto for podcasting, right? As far as smart speakers, right or wrong?
So if you, for all the Amazon Alexa devices, that's the default. So if you get yourself on TuneIn, Amazon will look in TuneIn to be able to find your podcast, the default way of doing it. For Google, they look at Google Podcasts. So that's why you have to have yourselves on both of those platforms. I've read some stuff where Amazon is looking to get into some of the other platforms as well to be able to find more podcasts across multiple distribution mechanisms. So there'll be more ways of getting it out there, and some of the platforms have put together their own skill, which is Amazon. We'll talk about that in just a minute, so that you can ask for podcasts on their platforms, through their platforms. But some places are actually moving away from TuneIn because they want to get their audience connected with them directly as opposed to through one of these platforms. And so that's why Amazon and Google have both made a way for people, companies, brands, anybody to be able to put out their own. Amazon calls them skills, Google calls them actions, and that's how you can interact with your audience directly. And you get all the stats. You know who's then getting your content when you do it that way.
So it doesn't the hosting platforms can't see that it's specifically coming from Echo or it just knows TuneIn. So you don't know if they're listening, how they're listening to it.
So from your perspective, if you just put your podcast on TuneIn, all you know is that you've gotten some listens through TuneIn. So whatever TuneIn is saying, but you don't know where that comes from. When you have your own skill, now you know who's using your content, and you get some additional statistics like how many devices are being used and stuff like that. But for the most part, you now get all the statistics of who's listening and when they're listening and how long they're listening, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you have your own skill. Yeah.
So how do you go about getting the TuneIn though? Because I don't think I ever signed up for TuneIn, but I'm pretty sure I'm there.
So if you didn't, now the answer, I'm not positive on the answer to that. I think that there are some platforms when you sign up for them, they distribute you through a number of different mechanisms, and TuneIn is likely one of them. So I'm not sure if you didn't, and maybe you're not actually out there.
I'm checking. I'm checking right now.
Yeah, you're checking right now.
Yeah, because I don't know. Maybe I'm not. But I thought I'm pretty sure I was. But you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not. You know what? I might not actually be on there.
Oh, so maybe you're one of those people that people are asking you for your content on Alexa and they can't find it.
Like I typed in Super Joe Pardo, and there's plenty of podcasts I've been on that are on there. But I don't think I am, unless let me see if it's on my old name because maybe it hasn't updated. But it's certainly looking like I am. Wow. All right, I need to take my own start a podcast how to, and because I actually have that here, how to submit to TuneIn.
Okay.
Boy, is my face red. You know what? That's part of the being honest and open that person that I am.
That's right.
To admit when I'm wrong. No, but I could have swore I was on there. I really, really could have swore I was on there. podcast.
Yeah, well, maybe not. I don't know. So that's the default way of getting your content, your podcast out there. I mean, you just submit it on TuneIn, and they give them your RSS feed, and then you'll be out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do this because apparently I haven't. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So when it comes to having like your own keyword, what's like, so I think I found this part fascinating about your talk. So for anyone that didn't hear it, like, you own the keyword no matter if it doesn't make sense. And that's, it's a pun because the example that you gave. Now go and explain that a little bit.
Okay, so I started to talk about the idea of you can put your podcast out on TuneIn, and that will make it so that Amazon Alexa devices can find your podcast. They'll find the latest episode of your podcast, and that's what they'll play. Somebody asks for it again tomorrow, they're going to play the latest episode of your podcast because that's what's available through TuneIn. But people are moving away from using Amazon and Google's default process to build their own process. And so Amazon and Google both allow you to be able to put your own, Google calls them actions, Amazon calls them skills. And that's, let me back up. So you have a podcast, but you likely have a website as well. And your website, to be able to get to your website, you have a domain name. And that's how people can access all of the content that you want to provide on your website visually. They go to your domain name, and that takes them to your website, and they can see all your content. In the audio world, in voice devices, smart speakers, phones, stuff like that, when you speak to these devices, what they use is what is called an invocation name. It's the same thing as a domain name in the verbal world. It's called an invocation name. And an invocation name is tied to one of those voice apps. So you have an Amazon skill or a Google action. Those are similar to a website, a verbal website. And how you get to that verbal website is through an invocation name. So when you submit your skill or your action out there, you say, hey, here's the invocation name, that when somebody says this invocation name, I want them to use this skill to be able to figure out what content needs to be provided. So a lot of places like BBC and a lot of places are building their own skills or actions using their invocation name, BBC, or you could do Super Joe Pardo, or Indie Podcast, whatever.
Indie Podcast. Yeah.
Indie Podcast. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that name or that brand name then is how you would get to your content on in the verbal space. When you do that, you now get all of the stats of who's using your content and how long they're listening and all that kind of stuff, because they're going through your skill or your action. I call them voice apps because each of these vendors uses a different word. So,
but the thing is the person who owns the term,
yep,
like, is the first person that gets it, right? It doesn't matter that there's CENTS versus SENSE. They're both sense, and you both say them the same way, sense.
Exactly. So the first person to put a Google action out there with an invocation name of Indie Podcast is the person who gets to decide what content gets played when somebody uses that.
I was talking to Dave Jackson, or the Dave Jackson.
Jackson, that's right.
after DC Podfest, and he didn't. I don't think he realized how intricate this whole thing is, and how much it harkens back to the days of like AOL keywords and
yes,
like buying into that space. But I think that there's definitely a lot of value, but the thing was there's really nothing to stop people from squatting those keywords.
There's so the answer to that is no. How do I answer that question? So
You're welcome.
Good. That's a good question. And the answer is that in Google's world, they whoever puts that voice app out there will own that keyword, with a couple of exceptions. And Google has made it so that if you've done your Google My Business and you have that out there, they are protecting some keywords, making sure that you have some relationship to that name. Now, there's ways around it, and so it really is the first person that wants that name can get it. It might just take them a couple of steps to do it. So anybody, if you've got a brand that you want to protect, getting that action out there before somebody else does is actually pretty critical. Yeah. On Amazon side, Amazon Skills, they went the other way. You can have multiple skills with the same invocation name, so that they have a little bit of a confusion on their side, because now when somebody says, start, the Indie Pod Fest, or if there's multiple of them out there, now Amazon gets confused as to which one to play. But on Google side, there's only one. And so there's no confusion on that side. Yeah. So, yep. And there'll be a rush. There'll be a rush on these pretty soon. As far as when people start figuring this out, there's going to be a more of a rush to be able to get your stuff out there. If you have any competition or there's a name that you want, you're going to want to make sure you get yours out there first.
Yeah. So, I mean, how much does something like this cost to get, to go through the process of securing that name, like one name versus like say, oh, well, I got 20 different, like we go down the rabbit hole of
right.
domain names that we want to register. And before you know it, we're, $150 a year in domain names that we are just forwarding to one domain.
So, and you can do that. And we've done that a couple of times because we've got a couple of clients that have multiple ways that people refer to their brand, but they want the same content played. And so in that case, we put out somewhere we've put a couple of different skills out there, actions out there that do go to the same content, because that's how their audience understands. They understand their brand in a couple of different ways. But what we do is we charge $300 to be able to build the skill and the action. So we put it in both sides, and then it's $18 a month to be able to maintain them is what we do. And that's what we do. We build those skills and actions. We tie it to your content. For podcasters, we tie it to your podcast. So it'll play not just your latest podcast, but it'll play all of your podcasts. For bloggers, we tie it to their blog, and we've got different ways of tying it into your content. But for podcasters, it's easy.
Now, is that the same as flash briefings?
It's similar to a flash briefing. The difference with a flash briefing is that it's really important to have really short content for flash briefings. So if your content is more than 30 to 90 seconds is like the sweet spot. If it's any more than that, you've got to have really interesting content. But if you go over 2 minutes, you really risk people excluding you from their morning briefing. Lots of people will use that as teasers to be able to get them tied into their other content. So their long form content. So they'll put out both. They'll have a short form content and then mention that, hey, you can get the long version of this later. And then you can do that a couple of different ways on the flash briefing. Some people they put something new out every day. Other people will put out, here's 100 pieces of content, and just rotate through the same content.
Yeah, who called it flash briefing? Because to me, it's such a hard thing it doesn't roll off the tongue.
Yeah, it's Amazon's way of doing it. Google's got a different way of doing it, but Amazon has actually been successful in being able to set up their flash briefing or their morning briefing. And basically, it ties into when you say good morning or give me my morning news, or my daily news or my flash briefing. It will trigger on all of those different phrases and knows to go down that list of content that you've set up for your smart speaker. Have you done that on yours? Do you run through a flash briefing on yours?
I don't. I mean, with 2 kids, it's hard to get quiet enough to actually listen to anything like that. Yeah, I have. I think I've tried it once or twice because like Danielle Daly has one, and you helped her set up. I
did not help her. I've talked to her a couple of different times. Yeah, and I know she's got.
And who else? Jeff Stoner has one through the My Mickey Vacation. He has a flash briefing as well. I haven't heard. I had to talk to them and see what what kind of penetration they've had with like people doing it and like listening to it on a regular basis. Again, the word flash briefing just has never sat right with me because I feel like I'm stumbling over my lips to say flash briefing. I don't know.
Yeah. How about morning news? Because I think that works as well. So hey Alexa, give me my morning news or my morning briefing. I think that works just as well.
And I guess I set that up in like what I want in the Alexa app.
Yes, that's where you set up what you want to hear when you trigger it. And there's a number of different ways that you can say that will trigger that list of items. I set mine up originally with I think a couple of Bloomberg News, and there was a couple of different news items that I wanted, and weather and stuff like that would go through. But I don't use it. I mean, I should, but I don't.
I mean, I'm trying to look at like the skills that I have available. I don't. I feel like Amazon doesn't do a great job of like getting people to like. I get an email every week updating me on what Alexa can do.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know. At the time, I just forwarded it to my wife because she's the one most of the time to be able to even use most of them. But I'm like flicking through, like you don't even see the word flash briefing anywhere. Like flicking through, I'm looking at communicate. Where in the app do I set up my flash briefings?
Routines? Let me pull my
it's under routines.
Probably.
Okay, so if I say Alexa, good morning. Oh, play the news for my flash briefing. Oh, how about that? And then I can, let's see, it's a device to speak to. Like, that's cool. I think I might need to try to play with that. But the problem is, like, in the morning, my wife is either still sleeping or the kids are still sleeping. And one of them may actually be sleeping in my bed.
Yes.
So, like, the last thing I was, it was so funny. Like, so we play the, like, Blippi songs on the Echo in my son's room a lot to get him to calm down. Like, stop being so rambunctious and get his clothes on. And it's funny. It's like, you could listen to Blippi songs at 7 a.m. every morning. You can wake up to Blippi songs. Just say, Alexa, wake me up on blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to wake up to at 7 a.m. Like, first off, I'm already up, like well up. But for a couple hours, so like you're not helping. But on top of that, no, just no.
I don't know. As soon as the kids are putting it together themselves, you're gonna have it's gonna be happening without you.
I think so. I think they'll be trying to schedule that stuff for themselves. Like, hey, I want to hear this when I wake up. Wake up to in the morning. Get my morning going. One of the things, so like smart speakers in general, so it almost feels like I have too many of them, around the house, and it's it's one of those things where it's like I know they're supposed to judge my voice, like where I'm, which one I'm closer to, but it doesn't always seem to work that well, especially because we have like three of them, one in each of the bedrooms, like right within earshot of each other. In fact, so much so that the tablet in here, I use a different wake word other than ALEXA.
Right.
I use AMAZON, which surprisingly comes up in conversation an awful lot because it calls itself up a tremendous amount of time. It's very annoying, actually.
Yeah.
And with the tablet, I can't change. I think there's only like 2 words you can use, which is ALEXA, AMAZON, or I think computer. But like I use compute, like I say that a lot. So like I don't want that to be it either.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
Yes. Yeah.
So I wish I could say, "Hey, Echo," or make up my own.
Yes.
Like, "Hey, Echo," like that. "Hey, Echo," like that's 3 syllables. Like that should be good enough. But
and that's what Google did. They "Okay Google" or "Hey Google" to be able to trigger theirs. Oops, my phone just took off. Until it stopped.
Yeah, before you know it, it's like Googling or it's Amazoning like things that you're there I go. I said it again. Now it's listening.
Right. Yeah, we always refer to her as Madam A. So
Madam A.
Madam A, yes.
It is funny. You know what? So one of the things, and this isn't podcasting related, obviously, but like one of the things about teaching my daughter who's 3, going to be before March, to be courteous to our AI overlords. Saying please and thank you and stuff like that. I think there's a setting that you can set it to force you to need to say please, I think.
Yeah, there is on the Amazon devices to be able to and to be able to add those phrases in. And it's actually kind of an interesting thought around that, because if you treat them as human, how much more are you going to feel like they're human? And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. So it's a little bit, I don't know. There's debates going on around that as far as that idea.
I just don't want my daughter not being rude, like yelling at, because that was what was happening. She was starting to yell at it, like when it wouldn't do what she couldn't talk that well because she was 2.5, 3.
Right.
But so she would start yelling at the thing, and I'm like, whoa, like I don't want this to carry over into like you talking to humans or other people like that.
Right.
So like we need to start injecting the word please. Now I haven't enabled the please into it because I mean when I'm not around her I don't say that, but I have a little more context to like know that I'm not supposed to be screaming at the thing.
Yes.
So just trying to get her to make force a habit to say please and thank you and that kind of stuff. So it goes a long way. But if I could enable it for, I guess, I don't know, certain, like all of them except the one in our bedroom. Like that's the only one that I don't need. Like that, and maybe the one in the garage and the one in my office.
Right.
I don't need to say please like to those ones, but to like hers and our living room and our theater room, her playroom, like they should probably say please.
To address it more politely, I guess.
Yeah, politely.
To train that idea. So, and it's good to learn for everything. Really, is to be able to say please and thank you for when somebody, or I guess in this case, something is actually doing something for you.
Yeah, definitely. So is there any is there anything we haven't talked about as far as smart speakers and like it related to your podcast and maybe like the market penetration you've seen with some of your clients or something to that effect?
Yeah, so right now the usage is still really is still really small as far as the number of people that are are using them. Most usage right now is using the default question and answer. I ask it a question and it gives me an answer. Weather, timers.
We use a timer a lot for
Yeah,
our daughter.
we use a timer a lot too, and grocery lists and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Grocery lists has been like a huge win for us because we got teenage boys. Actually, they're a little bit older now, and they would use the last of something in the kitchen, and getting them to walk over to the fridge and write it on the list was a big deal. I mean, because they're busy. I mean, they're cooking or whatever they're doing. But now that with these smart speakers, they can be using the last of the milk, and they can just say, "Hey Alexa, add milk to the shopping list." And so we love the shopping list one. So right now, most of the usage is on these default processes, but it's shifting, and a lot of the big companies are really starting to push using these custom skills and actions. And so you'll probably start seeing a lot more advertising where you'll see different brands say, "This is how to get our content on smart speakers," and it's starting to drive people to be able to expect to find all kinds of content out on these smart speakers, so that you can be getting your podcast on the way to work and working out at the gym as people start talking to their devices and to be able to ask for what they want, all kinds of things that they want.
Well, yeah, and I mean having it baked into like glasses, a ring, like
Yes.
those
Yeah.
are things that I could see growing that market, that ambiguous market. I mean, do we people feeling like, oh, well, I don't just need Alexa like while I'm at my house, I need it like all the time, and like opening my phone up, unlocking my phone, opening an app just to get it because Siri is not that great. It's just not a thing that like most people are going to do. So it really comes down to like these other devices that people are going to find like, oh wow, well it works so much better, and it's almost kind of like I applaud like Amazon, I almost said it again. Amazon for like kind of supplanting the phone, right? Like they had the Fire phone, the Fire HD phone, and they just totally canned it because they realized like they weren't going to compete with what's out there, even in the budget line. Like the stuff in the budget line is so great, and when you try to compete with, like their Fire tablets are so cheap that it's not competing with like the iPad, and then the only other thing is like a Galaxy tablet whenever they decide to like release one of those, those. So it's like you're basically sitting at the top of a heap of like other tablets, but you're gaining so much in revenue from these tablets because people are ordering more from you, and they have ads on them supported, so you can charge $50 and have something you wouldn't have otherwise. Like I think it makes just a lot of sense to say, let's not compete on that level, because so many people take their phones so seriously versus the tablet in most cases. And let's just go straight to like putting it on your ring, on your finger, or putting it in your glasses, or putting it in a necklace, or putting it, in a bracelet. Like that kind of stuff, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Amazon's going to this wearable, because Google and Apple have the cell phone market pretty much locked up. So I was wondering, how is Amazon going to be able to compete with Google having so many Android devices out there? And by going to the wearable market, where they now you put your earbuds in, and now they have Alexa tied into them, or on the glasses, they've got it on your glasses or your ring or wherever. Now all of a sudden they don't have to have cell phones. You can get these voice devices everywhere you're at. The next thing they're working on though is location. So how can they, when you say when you're talking about something, knowing where you're at, will make it so that they can provide better answers. And so you'll be able to ask stuff anywhere, but now getting that location tied into what you're doing will make it so that you'll get better answers.
No, that's awesome. I think it really is just the beginning of this whole thing. Like, even though it's now ALEAXA has existed for, I don't know, since what, 2016 or 2015?
Yeah, 4 years now, I think.
Yeah, but like how far it's come. Now it still does dumb things. Like my wife is like, "Hey, play what sound does a monkey make?" And you hear the sounds of the monkey, and then you say, like, "What sound does a cow make?" Here, moo. You're like, "What sound does an elephant make?" An elephant can be found in Africa, and blah, 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 blah. Like, nobody asked for that. Like, we just wanted to hear the noise that an elephant makes. That's it. Like, you overthought that one.
Right.
But being able to go and give like real answers, thoughtful answers, I think is, it makes you wonder, like IBM's Watson has been a thing for like a long time now, right? Like when like IBM's Watson was competing on Jeopardy, like probably almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was like 2000.
Might have been more than 10.
Well, here's one that says 2011 it was competing. So at that point it was already pretty like well developed if it was competing on Jeopardy. But like here we are all these years later, and it's like we still don't have access to Watson. And it's like how much better would that be to know, like, if I ask for something, it could compile everything that's already available and like give me the compiled answer versus like, here's the Wikipedia article says blah 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 blah. Like, speak to me in human, speak to me as if you read it and then digested it and then go. Right.
And Google is actually really doing some amazing work in that space, where they're you can see it actually when you do a search out on the internet using the Google search. A lot of times, and you'll see it more and more, where you'll see that top answer that comes up is being replaced with what's called a featured snippet.
Yep.
And their goal when they're actually building that, they're trying to scrape the web to come up with an answer, a short, concise answer for whatever your question is. And that's their goal, is to be able to provide the concise answer to anything that you ask. So we'll see more and more of those going forward. And they're feeding that into the voice space a lot. Actually, that's what they're using in the voice space. They're using that featured snippet as the answer, the verbal answer.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's great when the verbal answer is good or great, but it's sometimes it's not. And you're getting, just like the ask it for animal sounds, and you get a depiction of where and what that animal is and where it's from and all that. So
I wonder in those cases because there's a couple of things that could make it fail in that case. One of them is they don't have the animal sound. And so because they didn't, they said, well, what else? What do we got for you since I don't have the sound? And the other is turning words into intentions is a complicated thing. And so sometimes when they hear things and they figure out, okay, what did you mean by this? They get it wrong. They're getting better at what was your intention, but that's a process that a lot of AI and machine learning is going into that to figure out. I heard your words, but what did you mean? I mean, we have trouble with that even when we're talking with each other. It's like,
that's true.
I heard your word, and I assume something, and when we're having computers do this, it's a complicated problem. Computers do it.
Got a shiver there. Oh man. And I hopefully it'll get better, but I don't know, because like I said, people don't really know. It's also really, it's also really annoying. While we're on the topic of annoyances with smart speakers, when you're when it doesn't necessarily hear you right, and it's like the volume is set loud. So like we have this thing where it says, we have the skill like start brown noise. So it
Mhm.
starts like the like a white noise, but the brown noise is like but it's like a lower tone. And the idea is that it's not as like tinny
Right.
up
Okay.
top. So it just yeah. So anyway, half the time, 3/4 of the time, it gets it right. It just starts up, and then like 1/4 of the time it says, "Welcome to your smart sounds," blah blah blah. And I'm just like, stop, like because the volume is set to like 7 or 8, and it's just talking super loud.
Wow.
And
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
you know, we're trying not to wake the kids up, right? We just
Right,
wanted
right.
it to like like come up like nice and soft, and instead it's like this harsh, like, you know, and you're like stop, and it just doesn't even want to hear you because it's talking so loud because the volume is
Yes.
you know, way louder than I would want it to be. I wish that, you know, I think that's something that they could probably work on, is like intelligent volume. Like, when does it make sense? Like, you have the microphones, so you
Yep.
know what the ambient sound is.
Yep.
You know how loud my voice was when I made the command, so you know I'm not talking over anything because you can hear the room
Right.
silent. Like,
Right.
it doesn't necessarily need to be louder unless, like, I guess I don't know, like what, like it should intelligently know, like kind of like how cars have dynamic sound,
Mhm.
right? Like the louder it gets, the road noise gets and all,
Right.
the louder your volume will rise.
Yes. Yeah.
Progressively.
And a shift back feature. Just because yesterday afternoon I was playing music at level 7 doesn't mean that when I'm getting up this morning
That
I
you're the
wanted
same
it.
person at 7 a.m.
Exactly. That kind of stuff.
Exactly. Well, the car does the same thing, right? Like I'm not the same person I was at 5:45 last night or 10 o'clock last night.
Exactly. That's
7
right.
a.m. Like, just take it easy on me. People might be
Yeah.
sleeping. Let's be like me, like,
Right.
you know.
And
Might
even if
not
I'm
pull
not
you weak.
exactly, I don't want to be talking that loud in the morning. That's right. We want it
Yeah, exactly.
gentle.
And then you're like yelling at the thing, like,
Right.
stop, like, just stop.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna wake my daughter up who's sitting like 2 feet away from you when there was nothing else going on in the oh god. Yeah. So I don't know what that is. You know what I need? I need to find a new white noise, brown noise skill.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do. I've just been kind of lazy to do it because we just know, like, you just say, hey, start brown noise, and it comes right on.
Uh-huh.
Do you have speaking of all that, have you upgraded your lighting in your house to take advantage of it?
So I not currently. I have played with those different lights and stuff like that. Back when I was building an innovation room at one of my previous employers, I set up the lights to hook up to the stock market. So when different stocks were up or down, the lights would turn green or red. You know, if it was down, it would turn red, and stuff like just to be able to say, yeah, we can connect different things up with you know, IoT devices can talk to you can get information from them, and you can actually give information back to them. So there's a lot of stuff with IoT devices that is gonna happen in the future. I mean, even you're buying fridges now. They've got all that smart stuff inside of them, and washing machines. One of the latest I don't have yet, but I think would be really cool is a sink, the faucet. And I saw an adapter for our faucet we could get where you can ask for, I want 2 cups of water and that kind of stuff, and it would measure it out for you. So I don't have to. I just put the pan under there saying, "Hey, I want 2 cups of water," as opposed to.
My wife was telling me about that actually,
Yep.
and I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure that's way more expensive than I'm willing to spend." I mean, I know, like, I guess if I was into the cooking thing, then I probably would be more interested, but I'm sure it's not cheap to have that ability.
Most of the IoT devices are pretty pricey right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's some coolness factor that you get when you do that kind of stuff. But yeah, I have not invested in them.
Yeah, I mean, I have Hue lights all over the house, and it's been pretty pricey. Even I don't have like the multicolored ones. Like, I just got the white, white bulbs everywhere. But I could see getting a couple of the not white bulbs so that like as my kids get a little bit older and want to like, oh, let's have a party, like, but
Party
then I
time.
look at the price and I'm like, especially like our theater room has has like 8 hi-hats in it, right? So
Oh, yep.
and they're the is it RE40s or something like that, or R40s. So like those bulbs, I mean, if they didn't offer, I don't even think they offered white bulbs until like right before I decided to get them, because I was just using regular white bulbs. And had I had bought the color ones, it would have been like, instead of like $10 a bulb, it would have been like $40 a bulb. And I'm like, yeah, times 8, like, nah, no, I'm good. Like, it's the room that I would like to have it in,
Right.
but not at that price. If it was like $5 more, okay, like I'm already going to spend 10. What's another 5 for another $40? Yeah,
Right.
but we'll use it. It'll be fun. We can do like different colors, and it's a room that I would do that in, but not for like 4 times the price.
Yeah. And that probably brings up a good point. Is a lot of the stuff right now really is convenience or fun. But I think as Amazon and Google are investing so much money in this. I mean, they got Amazon a year ago, they had 10,000 employees working on their voice technology. So they're betting that this is the way that we're going to be interacting with computers in the future, is through voice. But we're still waiting for those couple of big items that it's like, I can't live without this. And once we start seeing those things, then I think you're going to see adoption and usage actually skyrocket once those killer apps start coming out. So that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, the closest things I would say is, having the lights is nice when it works. When it actually works, because sometimes like it does, like, oh, I can't see the Hue bridge. I'm like, it's connected via Ethernet. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to see it. If you're talking to me, that means you have internet connection. That means you can get to the network. That means you can turn the lights on, please, or turn the lights off. More importantly, please.
Right,
But,
please.
Yeah, please. It's like hard. This is a hard please. So I think that there's, music is a big one, right? Being able to just add a whim, because like before that is like I had an iTunes server like with all my music on it, and you could like stream it to AirPlay, but that means that like the person needed to have like the iTunes app on their phone and then stream it. And like I knew how to do that. I could do that, but would I expect my wife to be able to do it? She could, but the likeliness, because of the likeliness of that happening is super slim, like super, super slim. So like for her to just be able to say blah, 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 like turn on that song and it starts playing, like that's pretty compelling to me.
Yeah.
And I mean to her, because she used it. She uses it.
And that type of stuff is where it makes where instead of having to figure out how to make a computer do what you want it to do, they're moving that into the computer. They're saying the computer should figure that out. But that's that intention problem that we were talking about a little while ago, is how do you figure out what the intention is? And that's where they're spending a lot of time trying to figure out, how do we give you the right thing to your ask?
Well, I think the easy way to fix that is, and they've already kind of done it with just like use the Amazon show. There goes again. Amazon, never mind. The Amazon, stop.
Madam A.
Never mind. Yeah. Alexa, the show has the screen, so you have the ability to like see what it means and that kind of stuff. And I think it's better to have it all in one place rather than being like, well, you can go to your app and then, dive into it from there. But I'm really curious to see what the penetration rate of the Alexa app is. Like, how many people actually have it, are using it on a regular basis? Like, I tend to think it's probably not very high.
The app, or
yeah,
so not the devices, but the app. No, not very.
Yeah.
The goal is to not have you have to use any app. So they
Right.
don't want you. So that's only
But like, how
because
do I go about setting up my like? Is there a way to do like to set up my routines, set up my house, like my lights? Like, how do I do that stuff
right.
from just telling it like, hey, find new lights? Okay, this is the light that I'm talking about, and now I need to like categorize it into a group so that when I say turn on hallway, it knows which bulbs to turn on.
Right.
Or when I
So,
say turn on dinner, it knows that in my theater room, it's going to turn off all the front lights except for the two lights
oh,
right above our chair and dim them to like 5% each. So you just have enough to literally eat your dinner while you watch a movie.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Right. So the answer is they could set up all of that verbally so that you could do it verbally, but it's not there yet. So it's
I mean, it's a
easier right
lot,
now to do
right?
that
Because
kind of stuff.
each bulb has like a serial number, and it's. I
Mhm.
mean, as it is, the Hue thing is not that. It's not that simple. Like, put it this way: like, is it simple for me? Sure. Would I give it to like my mom or my dad and be like, "Hey, this is simple. Just plug them in. It'll be great. Like, here's the app." Like, there's just I don't have that confidence level in it. That would like, oh yeah, it's easy. Just screw the bulb. But like, how many how many how many people does it take to screw in a light bulb and set it up and set
Exactly.
it up? Like apparently
Yes.
two, because I don't have the confidence that, they would be able to get it done on their own.
But as companies figure those things out, as far as, okay, I screwed a light bulb in, the system should know, hey, there's a new light bulb, and it should
Right.
actually talk you through the process of, hey, is this part of a different group? Or yeah, exactly. So the point is that because there's a should, and because Amazon, Google, these companies are investing so much in this new way of interacting with compute resources, it's going to happen. Just the question is when
Oh,
and
here
how
you
soon.
go. Amazon, turn off Office.
Mm-hmm.
Office doesn't support that.
Amazon,
Yeah.
turn off Office.
Office doesn't support that.
That's I'm pretty like Amazon, turn off Office ceiling.
Sorry, I didn't find
Oh,
a device
Amazon,
named Office ceiling.
turn off Studio. I forgot my own name.
Sorry, I didn't find a device named Studio Echo Dot phone.
Did you hear that? Amazon, turn off Studio. Oh, it actually did it this time. Because what will happen is the lights above me, there's 3 bulbs above me. 9 times out of 10, only like 2 of them will shut off, not the
Really?
third one. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if I like screw it back in. Amazon, turn on Studio.
It's working like a
Amazon.
charm.
Oh shoot. Oh man, that's not good. Amazon, turn off speakers. Yeah, it's working like a charm. Oh, all right. Okay, now the speakers are off. Oh man. Well, it looks like my daughter didn't wake up. That's good news. Anyway, I think we need to wrap this episode up.
Okay. Oh, this is fun.
Oh, I'm glad you're having fun with this. I am as well. Let me see here. Let me run through a handful of the things that I need to promote, like the fact that we have a Icon store open now. Indie PodCon has a store and a Black Friday sale going on right now. You can go to indiepodcon.com/shop and pick up stickers, beanies, hats, t-shirts, and more will be coming soon. There's a couple of classic designs, including the MapCon 5 shirt that I'm wearing currently, where it says podcaster with the 5 for the S, and in the O it says do AC. There's a very limited edition shirt. There's only so many of those available, and those ship right from me, not from our printer, as well as the Podfessional shirts with the MapCon on the tag. Now that MapCon is no more, there will not be any more MapCon shirts coming out after this. So if you're interested in picking up Mapcon Ford's Podfessional shirt, you should do it. Get yourself a beanie while it's still cold outside. Get yourself a sticker and the brand new podcaster, the 8-bit podcaster t-shirt or sticker that is available in a lot of different colors. I like the way it came out. Reminds me of like Nintendo days, and I can't wait to get myself one of those shirts. They're all high quality shirts, all high quality stuff. That's why the prices aren't necessarily the cheapest, but I promise you the quality of the shirts are high and you will enjoy the shirts. We also have a female mic dropper shirt, which was previously not available. So I'm also looking for some ideas. If there's like a specific design or specific type of shirt or apparel or something like that you're looking for, let me know, and we'll see if I can get something put together for you and get it up on the site. So more is coming soon. If you haven't bought your ticket for Indie PodCon yet, you absolutely should. It's September 24th to the 26th, 2020. Go to indiepodcon.com/register and use promo code Black Friday to save 25% off of your ticket. It's the cheapest you will be able to get the tickets for I almost said MAFCON for Icon. And you can also use promo code Black Friday in the shop, indiepodcon.com/shop. If you haven't checked out the vlog from MapCon 5, you should go to check that out, indiepodcon.com/vlog. Chip, have you gotten a chance to check it out yet?
I've checked it out. Yes. It's good.
Awesome. Did you enjoy it? Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed putting it together. Something else I enjoyed putting together was the How to Start Your Podcast. Brand new ultimate guide is available right now. If you or someone you know wants to start a podcast, go to indiepodcon.com/SAP. There is a 7,600 plus word ultimate guide there with like 20 YouTube videos, hours and hours and hours of content in there. It's even good if you want to get a refresher on like figuring out your why start a podcast, why you started a podcast, and what you want to do with that podcast. If you want to sponsor an episode of the IndiePod podcast, go to indiepodcon.com/partners and check out our media kit. You can you can sponsor this, you can sponsor the conference. And let's make some magic. So if you go to the last page on there, we talk about how we can make you have an idea, we'll make that idea come to life. Anyway, my guest this week was Chip Edwards from Create. I never even said your website is createyourvoice.com. Createmyvoice.com. Yes. Chip, thank you so much for being a guest this week. I really, really appreciate it.
It was very fun, Joe. I appreciate spending some time with you.
Yeah, as always. And I'm looking forward to seeing you. Are you going to be down at Podfest in February or March?
Still looking at that right now. Yep.
I am too. I'm trying to figure out if I can make it work with the family vacations for the year. Right. If I can, make the time work. But
yes, that's my goal. My goal is to be in Phoenix the week before, and then Orlando that week.
You're just traveling all over the place, man.
Oh yeah, having fun.
Yeah, well, that's the important thing. And one other thing I wanted to add before we get out of here. So last week I was talking with Dr. Tyson Franklin. Shout out to him for having a grandchild yesterday or today. I don't know, whatever the time with the time change over in Australia, it probably was yesterday. And I was talking to him and talking about like rebranding and stuff like that. And I just wanted to give a quick update that I think I'm getting closer to like what I'm going to do with my Dreamers podcast, because I have yet to, since relaunching the show back under the original name, I haven't given it, I haven't figured out what that show is going to look like going forward. And I think I'm getting closer. So I just wanted to give a quick update on that. So I'm really, really getting kind of excited about the possibility of what's to come with that. So hopefully, but by the start of the year, I will have the game plan and starting to release new content under the Dreamers Podcast flag, I guess, or show. Anyway, all right, I'm getting very tired. Everybody, I hope you all have a very great week ahead or weekend ahead. And we're almost to Thanksgiving, so I'm looking forward to next week. We have a guest on the show, I think. Oh, wait, no, we don't actually, because next week is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and I didn't schedule anybody. So I'm depending on what's going on, I might do a solo live show. I'm not sure, but I don't have anybody scheduled, so we might be off. I think we're going to end up being off next week. Probably should be off. I should be off next week, right, Chip?
You should be off.
Take a week off. But the week after, I have Bonnie L. Frank coming on here on the Indie podcast. So I'm looking forward to chatting with her. Then I have Heather Warburton, Ross Brand on the 18th. Then we're off for Christmas, off for New Year's, and then Matthew Passy on Wednesday, the 8th, January. So have quite a few guests coming up, some breaks, the holidays and all. But I hope if I don't see you all next week, I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. Chip, have a great Thanksgiving, sir.
Absolutely. And you as well.
Thank you.